AI agents are everywhere, automating tasks and making decisions at machine speed. But agents make mistakes. Just one rogue agent can do big damage before you even notice. Rubrik Agent Cloud is the only platform that helps you monitor agents, set guardrails, and rewind mistakes, so you can unleash agents, not risk. Accelerate your AI transformation at Rubrik.com. That's RUBRIK.com.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Energy to Heal podcast. My name is Laura. I'm your host. This is a place where we talk about all things Splankna. So Splankna is a faith-based inner healing modality used very efficiently for people who have a lot of traumatic backgrounds, bringing Jesus into it, bringing the mind-body connection into it. Today, we're talking to one of my very best friends on the whole planet, Kendal Robertson, who also lives in the therapy world and has been on the show before, largely with the goal. The reason I wanted her to come back is because there is a very important connection between clients who are going to see a Splankna practitioner, and where's the line between that and someone who works in a talk therapy setting or a setting that is very different than Splankna. And when do you know that it's time for you to go see someone like that? And what are the benefits of it? So, Kendal, thanks for being here.
Being a best friend, you want to support your people in whatever they do. They're all in, you're all in with them. And so that was something that was really important to our friendship was, okay, how can I be all in with Laura in this new venture that she's doing? In that space, I already had my credentials. I wasn't practicing, but, knew talk therapy, but had no idea what Splankna was. And so as we began, the other thing is as a therapist, I'm not willing to encourage or suggest someone to do something that I'm not willing to do myself. So that's really important to me. If I say, hey, go talk to this professional or do this counseling, I better be very familiar with it and know what it's about. If I haven't experienced it personally, know enough about it to feel confident that it's reaching what the person's hoping for. So all that to say, sure, I'll be your guinea pig because I want to see what this is. And yeah, I remember the first couple of sessions and just every time I've done Splankna, I've always had a breakthrough. There's never been a Splankna session where I haven't received some form of healing or some type of breakthrough. And so that alone is a testament and that, yeah, it works. There's no doubt in my mind. And just the spiritual barrier that it breaks through with our bodies and our minds, because they are very powerful. Our minds and bodies are very powerful. But when you acknowledge that there's a God and that he's bigger than you, wow, like the opening for healing and passages to come through your body are just insurmountable things that you can't really accomplish with just words. And that's what makes Splankna and talk therapy so different, but also they work so well together. So my own experience, I don't know what you want me to.
Just can you recap two of my favorite stories is just briefly, like you had a recurring nightmare for a significant amount of time, like covered a long part of your life. And still to this day, I've not had it again since our Splankna session, right? And the second one was just a brief recap of kind of that paralysis you were having with studying to switch careers and take that test.
Since I was in middle school, I would have a reoccurring nightmare. I'm in my early 40s now through my mid 30s. So probably 35, 36. And I asked Laura, I'm like, so I have this dream. It's not often. It was really dependent upon how stressed I would be, of how often I would have the dream. What do you think? Do you think we could work this out in Splankna? Because I am also married. I would wake up screaming, and then my husband obviously would wake him up, and he would be up for a long time after those dreams because he has a harder time falling back asleep. I'm like, this is crazy. This needs to stop. And the dream was really centered around me being left behind from the rapture. So it sounds crazy to me. I felt like this is weird. Like, who has these dreams? But now, even further out from that Splankna session, I am now able to still process and connect some dots in my life from that initial session that we did. But for sake of time, it was just always, I was left behind. Jesus had come back and I was left. I was left. I was left. And I would wake up and just scream. And it was because in the mid 90s, there was lots of rapture movies and it was show your youth group and do all the church things. And so it was like you got all your friends from school and you went to this like movie event, and it terrified me. And they showed scenes on there that just were not really age appropriate and just things that really, really scared me. Well, for my personality and what I know now about adult version Kendal, I had extreme separation anxiety. And as a child, as a little girl, I mean, I remember being petrified when my parents would leave. So then you put it into another layer of God leaving me. Wow, that's the worst of the worst. And so in that series of Splankna, we really had to break off a lot of just hurts and pains and things that like I had to forgive God that he would even have this idea of leaving people behind. Like, how can a loving God leave people behind? And we had to process through that. I had to forgive myself. I had to forgive like just the experience and move through it, and just some covenants and some agreements that I had made. And to this day, I have not had that dream, not one time. And I'm not waking up in the middle of the night screaming. So that's a bonus for all. But really, like, it really was just set back and just some agreements and things that the like Holy Spirit needed to come in and say, I will never leave you. I will never forsake you. And just healing that part of me that was so afraid to be alone. So that was really a significant one. And the other one was, like you referenced, was, so long story longer. My family and I moved from South Florida 13 years ago. We packed everything up and we left it all behind. So I was practicing in South Florida as provisional license, and our family was just making lots of changes. And so I put everything on the shelf. I had a squishy little baby and on my hip, and we were just starting new things, and I was not going to be practicing. And I honestly didn't know if I would ever do it again for various reasons. I loved being a mom. We were moving across the country. We were going to be doing completely different work. And I was fine with that because I loved being a mom so much, and the freedom that these new jobs and careers were going to entail. I was ready to just be like, okay, I guess this is what I'm going to do. Well, through COVID and the world shutting down, which we're still referencing COVID. So it's just interesting. We're almost 6 years away from that, but we can still look at that as a defining moment for many people. I was like, the world is not going to do well from this experience. And due to my job and the restrictions we were under, I couldn't really go to work, and I had kids at home. And I'm like, you know what, I'm going to dust this off and see what it takes to get relicensed in a new state and all these things. So yeah, and I was doing all of the everything. I was so excited. It was like getting back on a bike. I loved it, and I knew I was passionate about it, and people were receiving the healing that they were looking for. And it all came down to taking the licensing exam. And I had failed it once in Florida, and I did not prepare well, to be fair to myself. But I, in college and graduate school, really struggled with test anxiety, and I would oftentimes have to take medication to help me take the test. And that was just part of my struggle. And I'm like, well, I'm just not a good test taker. And I remember thinking, I've got to take this test. This is the only thing that stands between me and my license, and it's coming time. I need to do this or I'm going to lose everything again. And you would get the ads or the software or whatever, and it would come to my inbox. And I remember sitting at our dining room table, and I would open up my laptop and I would see an ad or inbox to register for the exam. And immediately I'd get teary, my throat would close, and I would shut my laptop and walk out of the room. And I'm like, this is real. Like, there is a real struggle here to where I'm like, I'm not going to be able to do this. So then I would try to study, and I'd end up in a full-on panic. My throat would close up. I'd just start crying. I'd have to go for walks, and then I couldn't even focus. I was like, this is it. I will not be able to do this. And also talking then with my husband, like, are we okay if I don't ever pass this exam? And graciously, he's like, yes, of course. But he also was like, this is what you're made to do. So that's really hard to live in that space. because it really felt like a big impasse. So again, I call Laura. I'm like, so what do you think about this? Is there anything here? And she's like, well, we can try. And sure enough, in that session, we went back to like 5th, 6th grade version Kendal. And coming to find out through Splankna, which I had not heard this way of thinking yet, was that's usually in an age where your calling is put upon you. And I had made an agreement with the enemy, that basically a transactional agreement, that if you take this, like, give me this burden, this test anxiety, that way I don't have to do my calling. I don't have to receive it. So this will always just stand in the way. It's an easy thing. Well, I can't pass the test, right? Okay. And so I had made an agreement that I really wasn't consciously aware of. But now looking back, I'm like, oh yeah, I can totally see that. Lots of things shifted in me at that age, and school was always hard for me, just different things in that realm. And so then breaking that off and forgiving again myself and looking to the Lord as like, I gave you this unique gift for you. I want you to use it. Like, you don't have to be like anyone else. You don't have to do it like so-and-so. I just want you to do it to bring me glory. And that's one of the prayers that I pray often is, Lord, let the things that I do bring you honor and glory. Whatever that looks like, whether I'm walking the dog or in a therapy session, let what I do bring you honor and glory. And he was like, I really want to give this to you because I really think you could glorify me this way. So it was taking that back and receiving that calling, and praise God I did. And so then I had to go back into studying, and we're talking like they recommended 3 to 5 hours of studying a day. And I couldn't even do 15 minutes. And so I did it. And Laura gave me some tools to use before I would start the studying session. So I would utilize those tools and go in. And I'll never forget the first time I got through an hour. I'm like, I just did an hour. What is happening? This is insane. And I felt like I could go longer and longer. And then, yeah, lo and behold, I passed the test. Praise Jesus. Hallelujah. But I mean, I was ready to just be like, yeah, I'll just keep doing what I'm doing. I'll never be able to do this full time. This will stand in the way. Okay. Like just a settlement, an agreement. Like, okay. But like I said, I'm so glad I did that because I for sure was meant for this. And I've never been happier in any other job than I am currently. So again, that is through that Splankna session that broke off that anxiety.
What's amazing to me is like, what took years and years for you to build and years of blockage for you was undone in 1 hour of a Splankna session. And I hope you guys listening, like we say Splankna all the time. Splankna is just a tool. It is a powerful tool, but it is just a tool. Jesus is the one who breathes the life into the tool, who speaks to the client, who's doing the healing, who's setting the people free, who's pointing out these lies that we've believed over the years. I just want to really make that clear because I don't know if I say that often enough on these episodes. So going forward, it's been really cool because I left my job as a nurse somewhat close to the time that you left your job, your prior job, before getting back into therapy. And we were both going through this transition, and we found kind of just by experimenting, I would have these clients come in and we'd get all this breakthrough, all these emotional triggers, emotional symptoms would dissipate, but they still were people who had grown up in dysfunctional households that their parents never taught them the simple, basic things of life, of how to handle stress. What are some tools? Just like there were things that they needed to learn that they had never learned in life, even as a 30-year-old now. And that's not really what Splankna is for, is teaching new skills. So I was like, realizing I was kind of stuck with this client. We've gone as far as we can go. And I was like, I really think you should go see Kendal. And then we'd talk to them, get their permission, share information, and you would kind of pick up where I left off and vice versa. Can you talk about your experience of receiving maybe one of those clients or a place where you got stuck with a client and you were like, hey, maybe you need to go see Laura?
Yeah, for sure. So like Laura was saying, like you do have all these things that come out of Splankna that you're like, well, I wasn't expecting that, or I didn't see that coming, or wow, that relationship I haven't even thought about in 10 years, I should go back and restore it now that I've had this major breakthrough in Splankna. But knowing how to do that in a healthy and safe way is oftentimes what we work on in talk therapy, because they just had this monumental breakthrough. It doesn't mean that every other relationship in their life has had that breakthrough, but they're ready. And yet the other people might not be ready. So it's like getting that out and processing it through and getting a plan of action, but also making sure you have healthy boundaries. Have you ever had boundaries? What does that look like? I oftentimes say boundaries are for us, not for others, because I believe it gets misused in today's culture. I have a boundary against that. No. Like, that boundary is to help you. It's your playground. It's your fence around the playground. Like, let's utilize this well. And so really teaching people after Splankna how to go back into basically reintegrate this break off, this healthy thing. The other thing is too with Splankna is I will have some clients will say, well, I'm struggling with this again, and I thought I broke this off in Splankna. I get to be the voice that says you did break that off in Splankna, and we're not picking that back up because we prayed over that. You broke it off. You received the healing. There is something in you right now that says it's comfortable if I pick this pain back up. It's comfortable if I pick this offense back up. What is that saying to you? What is that saying about you? How does that provide comfort? Because what I know about Splankna and what you told me you went through with Splankna, that's gone. And so really helping people be in the space of their healing, right? Rather than picking it back up. And then vice versa, like you said, like what would make me refer a client to Splankna is we have processed some trauma. We are working on some things, but yet there's some resistance still. We're stuck. We can't move forward. The sessions are more about this thing that we're ruminating on, we're spiraling into. It could be the littlest trigger at a random time, and we go back to that part of us as if it's happening in real time. And I'm like, well, there is some trauma there. And if they're a person of faith, or even just they've decided to make the Lord their savior, like even that acknowledgement, or the acknowledgement that there is a God, I can even work in that space and saying, hey, let's try this, and doing my best to explain what Splankna is and see if we have breakthrough. What is this going to look like? Because you and I are at an impasse because we only have words. And with Splankna, you have the muscle testing, and your body can signal, and it's very powerful that your body wants to say something that you cannot receive in talk therapy. Now, I also am recently trained in EMDR, and we've talked about this. They're good cousins, but it's still not the same as Splankna because we're not muscle testing in EMDR. And so I think they partner well, but I still refer people for Splankna. And just, so it's like, we've hit an impasse, we've hit a block. I want you to go see somebody that I believe in and knows this could provide great healing. Let's just try it. And that's oftentimes what I'll ask people is like, are you willing just to try? Like, I'm not going to do anything I don't know. I'm not going to do anything I haven't experienced. And even just that little motivator of trying, wanting to try, you can work a lot with. But if they're not willing to try, then we don't push it and we say, okay, in due time, or maybe never, we pivot. But it's just keeping our minds open to all modalities is really kind of where I live in.
Yeah, that's really good. I remember being kind of new. Initially, I was just working with my family and friends, practicing, learning. And then people started referring me to their family and friends. And that anxiety of like, uh-oh, I don't even know this person. What are they going to think of me? What are they going to think of Splankna? And I started to hear the way they would talk about their sessions and about me in this very like, people would call me their therapist. And I'm like, okay, hold on. I'm not a therapist. Like, I'm a Splankna the whole thing. I'm a certified Splankna practitioner. But it really made me realize, like, okay, I'm coming from the nursing world. In nursing, we are with people in crisis often. We are very familiar with being right next to someone in a very vulnerable position, very vulnerable season of life. We're very familiar with respecting people's privacy, that whole world. So it wasn't too much of a jump to then be in this Splankna world, meeting with clients in that way. But there are just some things that I've heard you talk about as a licensed therapist, classes you've had, things you've been taught, and things I know you've just picked up over the years about just being professional. What does this look like in this setting? And I wonder if you could speak to some of the maybe practitioners listening that didn't even come from a nursing background. Maybe they were, I don't know, maybe they worked in an office somewhere. And a lot of this world is maybe new to them. And maybe you could shed some light on stuff that's just good to know when you're dealing with people who are telling you very private information, very sensitive pieces of information that would just be helpful for them to hear, to help them show up in a really professional and compassionate and boundary-filled way.
Okay, we're going to go real slow through this. So oftentimes, like you said, like you see people in crisis or whatever, vulnerable. I often will say I see people on their hardest days. And again, that's that honor and glory that I want to represent. And that when Jesus was on the earth, like he was with a lot of hard people. I mean, one was going to betray him, right? He always knew that. And so showing up for people on their behalf rather than on your behalf. So what I'm saying is, what role are you servicing? Like, what role are you providing in that session? And kind of dig into that. So like I've said, Laura and I are very, very close, best friends, right? Like there's going to be days where Laura needs me as her friend. And whether it's to just have a good night, go shopping, or sit in something really hard and knowing, okay, I'm Laura's friend. I was a vocational pastor in the past. Like she's not asking me to be a pastor. She's not asking me to be her therapist, which in my line of work, I cannot be your therapist. Let's just make that clear. But she needs me to show up as her friend. And so as a practitioner, it's hunkering down into that call, into that role. You're not their pastor. You're not their savior. We already have one of those. And he was really good at it. You're not their friend. And so really sitting in that role of like this, they are coming to me because they are needing help and breakthrough. How do I guide them to that to the best of my ability, knowing that you're human and so you're going to be limited, and knowing that God's got it. And when we are completely surrendered in that role, it's really hard to step outside of it. So yeah, like if your job before was something completely unrelated to Splankna practitioner or therapist or whatever, you have to tell yourself, I am no longer this role. You can use that on your resume, right? You can use that as you list your bio. But in that real time and as those minutes tick down, you are the practitioner, you're the professional in the room. They are coming to you to receive help. It can be also a very powerful thing where I see practitioners they let the ego voice talk really loud and use power. And you have to be really careful because that you're talking about people's well-being and mental health and their heart and their spiritual things. And so you really have to surrender yourself before each session and saying like, whatever you have here, I trust, and don't let me get in the way. Just don't let me be in the way. I oftentimes say I'm a wounded healer and a conduit for the Holy Spirit to work. So just to work through me. And most of the time I will say I get it right. And there's some times where I mess it up and I have to either go back and repair, acknowledge, hey, this is actually not, we're off track here. Let's center back. Let's circle back to this. Or just, bringing to awareness like, hey, tell me more about you. If a client asks me, I always tell my clients, you can ask me whatever you want about me. I will always tell you the truth. I try to keep things very private and just, my disclosures and what I am sharing. If they're asking a very personal question, sometimes I will say, how is this going to help you? I'm happy to answer it. I have nothing to hide, but tell me what is really deep inside of you that needs to know that answer. And oftentimes that will redirect the session and they'll forget even what they ask me. And again, it's not to pull one over on them or to confuse them. And sometimes I'll say, do you want to know that answer now? And they're like, oh no, it's fine. but just really staying in that professional realm of you're providing a service and what is your role, and managing those boundaries and those ethical principles that you would want anybody else. Like if you go to a medical doctor, you don't really want to hear how he got in an argument with his spouse the night before. So we are the same. They're coming to me to receive mental health healing. I'm going to provide that.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about, like, in an attempt to try to relate with someone, you are sharing stories, but there's a fine line between I'm sharing my story because I'm trying to help you, and then what's the, like, ego side of that? Or what's the, like, I imagine somebody, like, it could be easy to be in the habit of sharing too much of your story and you think it's helping the other person. Like, what is it that you said to me? You were like, clients say to me all the time, oh, I had a different therapist, and they talked about themselves the whole time. It felt like I was their therapist.
I've had that experience more times than I ever thought I imagined or could have imagined. One of the things is, like, don't disclose right from go, right? Like, now I know Splankna is different and that you might only get one time with this person. So really try to be focused on them and really be in that gate with them. If they ask you a question, you get to discern whether or not you're going to answer that. Like, that's totally your prerogative. Like I said, for me, I will answer all questions. I think that's because I did a lot of my roles in life have been with students and kids. So building that rapport and that trust is they're impressionistic. Okay. So moving forward is, like, I will disclose if I think it will help them. So it's not about me and, oh, I had that same experience. It's, if I'm going to share this, how is this going to help them? It's going to be, again, very client focused, very client centered. Like, what do they need if I tell them this story? Now, there's been experiences where their story is very eerily similar to an experience or a story that's happened to me in my life. And you got to really kind of, again, rely on the Holy Spirit and know, like, okay, this is not about me, but I can feel some transference. I can feel, maybe my heart is getting heavy, or the tears are about to spill, or I'm getting uncomfortable. One, it's a good signal, has this been healed? Do I need to do some personal work on this? And two, like, okay, you have to have people outside of your practice that you can call or you can meet up with and say, hey, you're not disclosing any personal information about your clients, but I had a client and they shared a very similar story to mine. I just need to get it out. I need to offload it and process it with you. Hopefully, you can ask that person to pray for you. And again, it's just, we're still healing. I'm still healing from my wounds, from my story, right? And so moving into that space of having people around me that can keep me in check and that I can call, and they're not going to judge me. They're not going to be like, oh, I'm calling the ethical board or whatever. Not that that's ever needed, but just being able to process with them. But I'm not processing with a client. You're correct. They are not to be comforting me. Now, if they say, like, an empathetic statement, like, oh my gosh, that's so hard, or I'm so sorry that happened to you. Okay, great. Like, receive that, but also reframe it. Like, yeah, that did happen. And I've done a lot of work and I've done a lot of healing for myself. So yeah, I just wanted to share that with you because I think it could help you, and reframe it towards them rather than like, oh, well, thank you. Yeah, I'm still healing. And let me call my friend Laura after this session. Like, no, let's not do that.
Oh, my word. Yeah. So when I think of this kind of stuff, I just want to preface from a very Splankna perspective, because it is different for Kendal's line of work. In true Splankna, we are not trained at all to even tell stories about ourselves in any scenario. So I'm sure that is one thing that's different between our two worlds. So I just want to clarify, like, if you're listening to this, Splankna training is just not that typically. If there's like a metaphor that pops into your mind that the Lord gives you just to help the client connect the dots between what they're hearing from the Lord and what their trauma story was, that I have had happen, and I've shared those stories. But I want you to just know, as a Splankna practitioner, all of that can be left out. And I think it's human nature to want to relate to people, want to say, hey, I've been through something similar. And maybe this is just encouragement for you to just keep those stories in, share them with a friend instead of your clients if you just haven't even been aware that you might be doing that. Okay, the other thought I had is, you know how in what we do, we sit across the room from people. They're sharing such personal stories with us. Some of them are very shocking stories. Can you teach us, how do you receive a shocking story in a professional yet compassionate way? They're like, you go too far on one side, super professional, you can come off as cold, like their story doesn't even affect you. And you're like, okay, great, let's process it. And they're like, what? I just bore my soul to you. And you're just like, yep, whatever, hear it all the time. But you go too compassionate and they share a story with you and you are like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry that happened to you. And now their client feels like they have to comfort you because you're so affected by their story. Like, what do we do? How do you sit when someone says something to you and it's so hurtful, so shocking, you can't believe they went through it? Like, what do you do?
Yeah, great question. And again, part of this is my training. So I had educational training on this. Now I've had a lot of experience. I have been out of graduate school since 2009. So that's a long time ago. So now it's just life experience. But here's the thing, Laura, is like anyone and every one of us is capable of having either something horrific happen or us do something horrific. And the moment we think we're not, watch out, because it will happen or something close to it will happen. So we don't sit in the seat of judgment. And so as somebody's telling me this or something big, and I oftentimes will sit back. Nonverbals are your friend in that moment. You're holding your face, your facials, but you're nodding, right? You're showing that you're listening. I might even take a deep breath, like not like, so it's like this big dramatic thing, but I will be like, and just kind of gather myself and just, again, that pause. Sometimes I think we have TikTok and we have Reels and all these things where it's just fast moving on to the next, onto the next, onto the next. The thing that makes us different from TikTok and Reels and AI is we actually have souls. And what that means is there is a connection right there in that space and that physical proximity that you get to kind of show that you're human. And so you just kind of sit and don't rush it and you hold it for a second. Oftentimes, if I think it's so big and there's a little bit of resistance, like I had this big thing and it was just a long time ago and I don't really talk about it much. I'll say, yet they mentioned it in therapy, right? So they want to talk about it. Maybe their subconscious wants to talk about it, but their conscious is like, I'm good. Okay. So oftentimes a phrase I'll say is, tell me more about that. Help me to understand. That sounds really big. Can you just give yourself a moment to just feel that? And some people are learning how to express emotion or to feel emotion. They know how to be mad, but that might be it. And so I'll just sit in that silence of like, what are you thinking? I'm thinking that really stinks that happened. Yeah, it does. What if you actually felt it for a second? Oftentimes there will be a physical reaction of tears. They might look down. They might look up, shake their head. And then I'll say, tell me more. What's happening right now? Because I'm not leading them in the emotion. Do you feel disappointed? Do you feel frustrated, overwhelmed? Like sometimes I will, but just holding that space of like, they just told you something really heavy. Let them feel it for them. And then for us, it's like, yeah, in EMDR, oftentimes they will say, the practitioner, you might get teary. You might feel the same emotion. You're mirroring constantly in EMDR, which is similar to Splankna, you're mirroring. So I always tell my clients, like, if you see tears, just know that I'm processing with you and I'm okay. It's just my body's physical response to what you've gone through. And knowing that they don't have to comfort me. Like, that's not their role here. We're in it together. And I'm helping them process. And if they're like, oh, now you're crying, like, what a mess. Like, just acknowledge it. Don't hide it. Don't like, I'm fine. Or, act like you're not. Acknowledge it. Yep, I am. And I am okay. And this is good. But yeah, like, and not being so like shocked. And then you might need to like later, there's many times between a session, I'll do some jumping jacks or I'll do a shake it off type of thing. And shaking it off doesn't mean like it doesn't affect me, but it's like, okay, we got to switch gears. Next person or next thing, or now I'm going to go be a wife or a mother. Like I got to switch that hat and just releasing it to the Lord. Like, okay, you knew that was going to happen. You are not surprised. Here it is. That way you're not taking it on with you. And again, in that professional realm of that boundary of like, it's theirs, not ours to take with us. We again aren't like, we don't have to take on their emotion. We can release it just like they released it. And that boundary of like, I have my stuff that I'm still working on and they have theirs. And that's what makes this work out really, really well. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, it's good. I've been doing Splankna, I think, for 4 years, and I love it so much. I can't ever imagine getting tired of it, getting bored, being like, I'm ready for something new. Like, I love it so much. I feel like I have a front seat to watching God speak, set people free, do miracles. I mean, it's just like, I can't imagine. But I found myself, not consciously, because consciously I was still saying, I love it, I love it, I love it. But I would see people sign up on my schedule and this heaviness would hit my chest. And I would eventually started to be aware of it. And I was like, what is going on with me? Maybe I'm just got a busy schedule. And so I'm feeling overwhelmed with all the things I have to do. Eventually I sat with it long enough to connect at least the dots of like, I was starting to get overwhelmed or something by people's sad stories, their trauma, like that empathetic part of me carrying, that should have never happened to that person. That's so unfair. Why did their childhood have to be like that? And then I had to do, like you said, my personal work, meeting with other friends who are Splankna practitioners. And I had to say like, hey, I need to do a session on being a Splankna practitioner and forgetting that this is not mine to carry. And I need to surrender every single person that I sit in front of to the Lord. And something must have gotten crossed in my mind that was believing it was my job to carry and my job to fix these people, which consciously I know that's not my job. But for that burden to be falling on me, I was wondering like, maybe I'm starting to carry the stress of needing to be the person who heals this person, helps this person. So just realigning that. And honestly, we did a Splankna session and that thud in my chest, that heaviness in my chest, I don't feel that anymore. But I would imagine for people in this field or anyone listening who is like in charge of a lot of people's lives, I'm thinking like every mom in the whole world, teachers, any job where you are invested in other humans and we carry each other's burdens. Like, what have you found to be strategies so that the heaviness and sadness of other people doesn't end up kind of collapsing on you or getting heavy after a while?
So I'm a big believer in the messages we say in the wiring of our brain. So if I tell you, and you've been a great asset in my life in this way of like, Kendal, you can't keep saying that. I've often said, well, it's all my fault for X. And so if you say, I am responsible for this person to gain the healing, you've assumed inappropriate responsibility because I'm not. And so the message is because you asked, what do? I will tell myself oftentimes like, I'm not responsible for their healing. My job is I have the skills, the strategies, the gifting, the calling to help them. The rest is up to them, right? Like if they want to get healing, if they want to get help, they're going to implement, they're going to invest, they're going to do beyond time and resources. I mean, let's say I see a client every week. That's still only 4 hours a month. 4 hours in a month, I'm not the be all end all on that. Like that is on them. And so really like when we're in session and when we're making breakthrough and they're receiving the healing, I always point it back to them. look what God's doing through you. Or look at how far you've come. Can you see, let's reflect back. Can you see like the goal we were working on and where we are now? And not allowing it to be anything about me. I know a lot of times in therapists, practitioners, all the things, we want the positive reinforcement. Like, did I make breakthrough? Did anything resonate with them? Like, I have no idea. They abruptly stopped. Is it because they hate me? We can't know those things. And that's the long game of what our callings are. Teachers, moms, all of those things is we might find out on earth. But if we're dependent upon finding out on earth, we're going to be really sad because we just can't know. But in heaven, we might get to see, we will get to see those ripple effects. We will get to see those things. God is I just believe he's going to be kind and say, that calling I put on your life as a mom, on that day that you really almost gave up, this is what I was doing for them. I was freeing them from this, or I was protecting you from this, or whatever. Because it's not dependent upon us to bring the healing. It's not my job and again, that heaviness that you're talking about, last things last on this question is I have to do very intentional things to make sure I'm at the healthiest I can be. So I get up really early. And my kids, we were just talking about this, how I get up early. And I'm like, do you know why I get up early? And they're like, yeah, because you like to be able to do something for yourself each day. Right. So I'm not going to the mall. I'm not going shopping. Most coffee shops are still not open when I get up. But I cannot go through my day and say I didn't do anything I didn't want to. I had time for myself that day is basically because I had come to a point where I was like, I don't have anything for myself. I was feeling very sorry for myself. And I was like, well, I could change that. And the way I had to change that was get up with the chickens, in which I do have, spend time doing whatever I want. And most days, I'll be honest, it's sipping on coffee, journaling, reading the Bible, sitting quietly to keep myself in check. I also exercise. That's a very important thing for my mental health, and that I'm not taking anybody's stuff with me. And then how I eat, I've changed pretty significantly in the last year or two, and just having a balanced diet. It's not all about that, but for my brain to not have brain fog, to be able to not pick up depression, because I'm prone to anxiety and depression. I know that about myself. Foods really can influence that. And then lastly is having people around me that I enjoy being with. And I just need to not talk about anything, or I'm all out of words today because I used them in the clinic for 8 hours. You tell me about your fun life, and listening and just being in that space. So that's how I don't take on the heavy. I have very physical cues. So when I leave my office, I have a rhythm. So it's shutting my laptop. It's putting things away. It's getting the next day ready. Turning off the lights is very intentional, because for a very long time, my work and life were together. And I lived and worked and breathed and did it all in the same space, that now I have to compartmentalize and say, now the day is over. I'm going to go home. And this will still be here tomorrow. I'll come back to it. I'll be ready, or I won't be, but it can stay here for a moment.
I love that. Okay, so I truly don't know the answer to this. I think I do, but are you taking new clients right now, or are you full?
Oh, that's a great question. I love that you don't know that answer. I think it changes all the time. Yeah. It's an interesting life, because I've only been doing this for 1.5 years. So if you get any feedback from this podcast from other therapists that share, tell me, because I want to hear their things. I'm still so new in the full-time capacity that I'm learning all the time as far as caseload. So generally what I try to stay away from a wait list, although it's real, and I currently have a wait list. But here's what I've learned about my wait list is when the Lord wants to open up, he will open up, and he puts the right person in. When you're starting a new practice, the goal is to get full, or whatever that looks like. And there's different methodologies, formulas, all of the things. I won't go into that because I feel like everybody does it different. And so you say yes a lot. And then you start to find out, you don't have to say yes to everything and everyone and trust that they'll find the help that they're looking for. It's again, not dependent upon you. So I do currently have a wait list, but again, I know in the next couple of weeks, it's going to work itself out. And I don't have a wait list. I try not to have a wait list longer than 5 people because that's 5 people that need help. And so I oftentimes will refer and say, I have a wait list. I can give you a name of somebody else that has availability. Would you rather do that? Again, because I'm not the be all end all. And I have enough networking now where I can refer, and that feels good. If they're like, no, I'll just wait. Okay, great. This is kind of the timeline. It's generally 2 to 3 weeks because people are coming and going for various reasons. And usually I used to think when I was going to terminate them, but people are like, hey, I can't anymore, or hey, I'm moving, or I'm changing jobs. And so you just have to be ready for that. The other thing is I will do a cancellation list. So I have cancellations every week. And there's people that have a lifestyle that accommodates that, where they work from home, or it's hard for them to plan ahead. Thursday at 1 every week. And they're like, hey, Kendal, can you just call me on your cancellations? And I can usually make that work. And so what I will do is, because the way my stuff is set up, they'll get a reminder 48 hours out. And they generally say, I can't make it. Okay. Then I will call those people on that cancellation list and say, hey, do you want to come in? Last things last. If I've worked with a client prior to, I will take them back on. Again, I don't know if there's rules around this before a waitlisted person, because I feel like I have a responsibility to them, and that rapport, safety, trust has already been there. And so they're calling me and I can move them in a lot easier. We're not building rapport like I would with a new client. And again, all of the people on my wait list, I give them the opportunity to go somewhere else. And sometimes they do, and that's very fine. But it's very interesting, the timing of it. Because when I've had people waitlisted, they're like, yeah, I've been waiting for a couple weeks. I wasn't ready a couple weeks ago. Now I am. I'm like, whoa. And again, I'm like, that is the Lord. Like that's the Holy Spirit.
Okay, so if people are hearing you, they're in the Omaha area, or you do virtual, right? Yes. Okay, if someone wants to reach out and be like, I'm just going to see if she has any room, or I hear this woman, I need a talk therapist, and I trust whoever she would refer me to, how can they get in contact with you?
I think you can probably put my contact information on your show notes. Yeah, let's do that. And then also so I am part of a group practice called Grace Point Relational Health. They are headquartered in Lincoln, Nebraska, and we have offices in Grand Island and Omaha. And I'm one of your Omaha practitioners. So I'm really proud of that group. I'm really proud of the work that they do. And you can reach out to them and they will take in all of your information. We don't schedule anyone prior to having paperwork completed. So you have to fill out the paperwork. And that's another thing. People are like, I need to see you right now. It's good to let people simmer. Like, okay, let's get the paperwork. Okay, let's get you in. Again, for Splankna practitioners, like you don't have to say yes to every single thing, and just trust the timing of it. I've had to really learn trusting the timing. So yeah, they can reach out that way. Also, you can find me. I have a small little marketing ad on Psychology Today. You can look my name up, Kendal Robertson, and it'll contact me that way.
1L. Kendal, 1L.
That's right.
It's important. Okay, you guys, we're going to wrap up this conversation. I hope it's been helpful for you, not only if you are a practitioner. I hope that you have, hearing from Kendal, some more confidence to be in your role, to stop thinking of yourself as, I don't know, like for the longest time was, I'm just an ex-nurse. I don't know. No, I am a Splankna practitioner. I know I've been trained how to help people. I know how to come alongside someone, and the confidence and the professionalism to own that role. If you want to hear more about this type of conversation kind of early on in the season, there's an episode called How to Be and How to Find an Amazing Practitioner. If you're like, okay, I want a practitioner, but I don't know how to find a good one. How do I know if it's a good fit? Or I want to learn more about being in this role of how do I serve people well? How do I love people well? How do I show up? Go back and look for that episode as well. And just wanted to thank you so much for being here. It means the world to me that you guys listen, to read your emails saying what you're getting from this podcast. It is my true genuine joy to have these conversations. Every time I record one, I'm like, okay, now that was my favorite episode. Especially when I get to do it with my friends. So thanks for being here, and we will see you guys next week.
Marketing is hard. But I'll tell you a little secret. It doesn't have to be. Let me point something out. You're listening to a podcast right now, and it's great. You love the host. You seek it out and download it. You listen to it while driving, working out, cooking, even going to the bathroom. Podcasts are a pretty close companion. And this is a podcast ad. Did I get your attention? You can reach great listeners like yourself with podcast advertising from Libsyn Ads. Choose from hundreds of top podcasts offering host endorsements, or run a pre-produced ad like this one across thousands of shows to reach your target audience in their favorite podcasts with Libsyn Ads. Go to libsynads.com, that's LIBSYN, ads.com today.